What is your the moment I knew I had to get out of this relationship? I want to share that about 5 years into our relationship, I finally started engaging in extracurricular activities without her. For a long time, I'd been playing games and attending tournaments with friends to fill the void left by not returning to martial arts. She would always accompany me and make me feel guilty if I wanted to go alone. As a result, I stopped competing and hanging out with my friends. When I went back to college, I decided to rejoin martial arts, competing, and being physically active. After about a year, I realized, oh my goodness, I'm having more fun with martial arts and my friends than I am with my girlfriend. People describe me as stiff and under constant pressure whenever she was around. I always felt like I had to watch what I said in her presence. I acted that way because, well, truthfully, I was just young and alone. Being intimate with her felt natural and often distracted me from how bad things really were. I knew I was falling out of love with her, but I endured it because I wasn't sure. The next 2 years were probably some of the most emotionally challenging years I've ever had with someone. She tried to guilt trip me again, but this time I stood my ground. I didn't want to give up something I loved doing just because it bothered her. Eventually, it all led to me telling her how I really felt, only for it to be brushed off with, so, couples make time for each other. When she said that, I realized that while I had my own interests and friends, she didn't. All she had was me, and she clung to me desperately as if I were the only thing in the world. If there's one regret I have about breaking up with her, it's that I never truly gave her closure. I told her I knew I wasn't in love with her anymore and that we should break up. She protested and desperately tried to remain friends, only to realize, well, she had made me close myself off from everyone I didn't talk to daily because when we first started dating, she said, "You should try to talk to me as much as possible." This led to me neglecting my friends more and more. The final straw between us was when she found out I had been with someone at a party after our breakup. It didn't mean anything, there was just mutual attraction, and I had just gone through a breakup. When she found out, I received one of the worst barrage of text messages and voicemails I've ever received. Messages telling me about how, quote, "congratulations on slamming the door on the best thing that ever happened to me," and how, "you're not the man I fell in love with 7 years ago." It affected me mentally for a while, so much so that I just wanted to be alone for a month. No martial arts, no socializing with friends, no contact with anyone other than family or work. I'm incredibly grateful my friends were there to help me get back on my feet. I wish her well, and I hope she's doing all right. About a year later, I started dating one of my best friends from the dojo, and a year after that, we got married. Truthfully, this is the happiest I've ever felt with another person in my entire life. Story 2. When I was planning to visit my family because they weren't doing well, I was in the midst of preparing for the trip. Her best friend sent her a text suggesting that while I was away, they should get some grass and have it together. Her phone was unlocked and she wasn't near it. I saw the message and was about to tell her that her friend had texted her. However, I read the message first. She and I had always had an open phone policy and never thought I would have to snoop. Grass has a very negative effect on me. I don't mellow out, quite the opposite, which many people claim is impossible. But I have had friends who understand that it can affect some people badly, and I'm one of them. Additionally, my dog would still be in the house with them. I did not approve of this. I don't care if grass is considered mild or not. I have a very strong stance against anything illegal near me, and she had known this for many years before grass was decriminalized. I simply just don't accept it. I don't care. I wasn't going to have it anywhere near me or my house. I find the smell horrible, and I would have smelled it when I returned, knowing that it had been used around my dog. This angered me even more. It was a violation of my trust, and she was only doing it because it had been recently decriminalized, thinking I would not care and that I should just get over it. Even if she had planned to do it at her friend's place instead of mine, I would have wanted to break up with her. But the fact that she was willing to do this in my house was the first revelation in the wall, revealing how poorly our relationship was built. So instead of going on my trip to see my sick family, I stayed home to do that plan and began evaluating our entire relationship, considering how much of it was gaslighting and her being controlling. And it was just one time too many. I started pushing back on her little dramas and tests, and then I declared it over. I've been happily single for 2 years, and I don't miss her at all. In fact, I'm doing all the things I stopped doing because of her, making things, creating things, fixing things, and having a life. Story 3. In the early stages of our relationship, she pressured me into separating with one of my closest friends who was a girl. There were several factors that led to my compliance. Among them was my insecurity at 18 and my fear of losing my girlfriend. After not speaking to my friend for about 3 years, my partner finally allowed me to reestablish contact with her. I spent hours talking to my friend, explaining my actions and expressing how incredibly sorry and guilty I felt for ghosting her. My friend was very kind and understanding, yet honest about how difficult it had been for her to lose the friend she trusted the most, especially given the way it happened, without any contact or explanation. We truly reconnected, and I made it clear to my partner how much I appreciated her letting me talk to my friend again. I was very open about how much I enjoyed our conversations. I believed that being open about my feelings would show that my friend wasn't a threat at all. However, that wasn't the case. After a month, my partner suddenly, mid conversation, changed her mind and once again gave me an ultimatum: stop talking to her or we're through. I knew then and there that we were never going to stay together. My partner was aware of the pain it caused both my friend and me when I ghosted her before, and how much we both valued being able to talk again. Yet she had no issue demanding that I stop communicating with her. I had noticed for a while that the relationship wasn't healthy, but that was the defining moment when I realized it would never work out and that I would have to end it eventually. I continued to talk to my friend in secret while pretending to my partner that I had isolated her off. Over a year later, I finally managed to break up with her. It took some time due to a number of complex factors, including my desire to be absolutely certain I was making the right decision. However, I am very proud of myself for finally breaking free from that unhealthy relationship. Story 4. When I arrived home from work to find the house in a mess, the dishes he had promised to wash were piled high, emitting a foul odor. The bedroom was a mess with his clothes scattered across the floor, and the still sealed envelope containing my anniversary card from months earlier was sitting in front of him on his desk while he was engrossed in playing video games. I had stopped cleaning up after him and endured the mess for 2 weeks before I reached my breaking point. I began washing the dishes, perhaps a bit noisily due to my frustration, and he approached me from behind, hugged me, and feebly expressed gratitude for my cleaning efforts. I shrugged him off and stated that I didn't feel appreciated and that this situation was unacceptable. He had no response. This incident was the culmination of a series of similar events, along with his behavior, that made me realize I couldn't continue living this way and that I deserved better. Story 5. During the week our daughter passed away, his sole concern was the amount of money we were receiving in funeral donations, and he continued to be unfaithful to me. I reached my breaking point and finally left him, despite several previous failed attempts to do so. He was extremely harmful and had a history of frequent infidelity. I stayed because I lacked support and was also concerned about our daughter. The moment I made the decision to leave was during a phone call. I was in tears, asking him to be there for me and to put aside his selfish behavior for at least a short while. But he kept yelling and hanging up on me only to call back. With the help of a friend, I gathered my belongings from his place and quickly left the state. Leaving him was the best decision of my life, possibly even life-saving, quite literally. I no longer feel the need to protect myself in such a drastic way, and I've learned what love is truly supposed to feel like, both self-love and love from someone else. Story 6. I was living in Florida, feeling homesick for New York and constantly arguing with a blonde girl I'd moved in with. Unexpectedly in the bathroom, she attempted to hit me. I managed to avoid it. She then tried again from the other side. I dodged that as well. As I stood there holding both her wrists, she burst out at me. In the brief moment before the discomfort set in, I reacted by holding her. We both fell to the bathroom floor, entangled in a struggle, raising our voices and expressing our frustrations at each other. Amid her muffled protests, I experienced a moment of intense, overwhelming clarity. As I curiously observed the dirt and grime around the base of the toilet bowl, a sense of calm washed over me. It was at that precise moment that I realized the relationship was over. All the conflict, all the effort, all the foolish things I'd done to keep the relationship going, it all seemed so utterly absurd. Every bit of desire I had to stay with her vanished completely. So I released my girlfriend and began laughing uncontrollably. My laughter deflated her anger. Instantly, there was apprehension in her eyes. "What?" she asked. "Why are you laughing?" But I only shook my head and smiled. I was already contemplating whether I wanted to sell my motorcycle and fly back home or find a way to drive it back to New York. Within days, I had sold my belongings and moved out. She begged and pleaded, of course, but my decision had been made. I'm still in New York and happier than ever, but I'll never forget the floor under that toilet. So, who knew the bathroom would become the ring for his final confrontation? Dodging blows and ending up in a tangle on the floor, it was like a scene straight out of a movie. And if you're relating to the video at all to any one of the stories so far, please don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos just like this. Story 7. Everything was fine until I actually married her. After the wedding, things took a rapid turn for the worse. The most significant issue was that I began to get sick frequently. I'd always been in good health until I married her. One day, everything became clear when someone else tried to use the mayonnaise in the fridge. She panicked and literally ran across the kitchen to take it from their hand. She then calmly walked over and handed it to me, saying that I was the only one allowed to eat the mayonnaise. It was then that I suspected she might be intentionally causing me harm. Our relationship seemed to improve whenever I was sick and vulnerable. She was widowed when I met her, and I can't help but wonder if her late husband was also her victim. After our separation, while I was waiting to file for divorce, in Canada, you have to wait 1 year before filing for an uncontested divorce. She called me out of the blue, wanting to know the details of my life insurance policy. This call came after months of no communication and without any small talk. For the next few weeks, I found myself looking over my shoulder, worried that she might have hired someone to harm me. I know it may sound crazy, but beyond my life insurance policy, I discovered that she would have been eligible for a second federal survivor's benefit from the government. She could have continued receiving her late husband's and then mine. It's a morbid thought, but it seemed I was more valuable to her in a different state than alive. Story 8. It should have been when I discovered his extensive collection of inappropriate photos of various female friends. Finding such a collection with meticulous naming and categorization, it was disturbing and indicative of a troubling personality. It should have been when he was unfaithful to me with his ex-girlfriend for the first time. It should have been any of the countless times I caught him in bed with another woman, and due to my inexperience at the time, I was unable to confront him for fear of making him angry with me. It should have been after I realized that he didn't care about my well-being, but the desire for a certain type of relationship is strong, leading one into denial. Perhaps it should have been the first instance when he began engaging in harmful behavior, making me feel vulnerable while he felt smugly superior. The mistreatment only escalated, leading him to using aggressive actions against me. Maybe it was the fact that he had another affair with his ex-girlfriend, only for her to eventually leave him to stay with her own boyfriend. Or the times he came home with unexplained marks, snuck out while I was at work, or any number of red flags I ignored because I was just so deeply in love. I believe that if only those issues would disappear, we could have the perfect relationship. I endured mistreatment but kept returning. Relationships characterized by harmful behavior are never enjoyable. The best prevention is to be confident in your own single life and to know when to stand up for yourself and when to leave. If someone makes you feel miserable, they're not worth your time. Story 9. We had been dating for about 3 years and had just moved in together. One night, we went to a show and both ended up quite intoxicated. I was lying weakly in the booth and a friend of ours was taking care of me, wiping the sweat from my forehead as we waited for our cab. When we got home, my ex confronted me, accusing me of flirting with our friend. To demonstrate that I didn't love her, she locked herself in the bedroom and said she was going to harm herself. Being naive and believing her, I broke the door down. She then started hurting me. I retreated until we were in the living room. I had enough, so I grabbed her by the arms and put her down onto the couch. "Oh, that's it, you just harmed me, I'm calling the police," she exclaimed. She then locked herself in the bathroom. I just sat weakly on the couch waiting for the police to arrive. However, she didn't call the police. Instead, she called my mother at 2 a.m. When I sobered up and woke up, I decided it was time for us to go our separate ways. Story 10. Let me preface this story by admitting that I had absolutely no self-respect at this time in my life, and this was my first serious relationship, which started in high school. We had been living together for about 4 months during college when she wanted to break up. However, she didn't want me to leave because she, quote, just wanted to date other people to see what it was like. Instead of telling her off and asking her why she would think that was appropriate for either of us while we were still living together, I took the low self-esteem route and agreed. Nothing changed. We continued our relationship as before, still maintaining our physical relationship and going about our daily lives as if the conversation had never happened. I later found out that she was telling all her friends we weren't even together anymore. Things began to deteriorate quickly, as they often do in such situations. Every time I felt I had reached my limit, I would tell her I was leaving, and she would practically beg me to stay. I didn't have the courage to say no. I finally knew it was over when I heard her being intimate with another guy in our house. This wasn't like I was out and then walked in and heard it. This was in the middle of the day, on my day off, while I was sitting on the couch in the living room. It was probably the single most painful and liberating experience of my life. I was gone 2 days after that. I vowed to never let anyone treat me the way she did again. And I'm so happy with the person I am today and the person I'm with because I found a good person who doesn't make me feel trapped, and I wouldn't hesitate to stand up for myself if necessary. I say that because I know she would do the same. We both know we deserve to be treated well because that's how we want to be treated. Story 11. One ex girlfriend I had drank bleach to get my attention. I'm not joking. She actually drank bleach and was rushed to the hospital by her mother. The second time she did it, the nurse jokingly asked what flavor she drank. Her family blamed me for all her troubles. We lasted for over a year. The next ex girlfriend, who came after Miss Bleach after I had been single for a year, we got along well for the first 2 to 3 months. Then she started acting strangely and became too possessive to the point of obsession. We were in a long distance relationship after the fourth month because I had to move away. She got to the point where she slept on the streets just because she wanted to see me, not having enough money to come to my place. At one point, she claimed she was pregnant. She was pushing for marriage or moving in together, and I wasn't even sure if I was the father. She isn't pregnant now, and I honestly have no idea what happened. Story 12. I was in an extremely challenging relationship for almost 3 years. I came close to serious harm on several occasions. Yet I never left this person out of fear that he would cause me grave harm if I try to leave. In any challenging relationship, there is a cycle. After the difficult times, there was a honeymoon period where my boyfriend would buy me gifts, be caring, and attempt to make up for his actions. This led me to believe that I somehow deserved the hardships, that he was normally caring, but it was all my fault. One day, we decided to go on a small vacation to a nearby city. It was pleasant. We were enjoying ourselves in a budget hotel. I forgot to mention that my ex had a drinking problem, but he didn't always become aggressive when he was drinking. Well, he decided to start drinking at the pool. I thought this was fine. We had to head to a family gathering, so we got in the car and took off. Out of nowhere, he became upset. He started to become violent towards me as I was driving. It was painful. I didn't know what to do. I pulled over and tried to get out of the car. He tore off my shirt. I was nearly unclothed near a busy road. I didn't care. I got out of the car, and he damaged my windshield. Someone came to help, and he ran off. The person asked if I was okay, and I said yes. They went back to work and didn't call the authorities. I wish they had. I wish I had. I was driving around and called a friend. I didn't tell him about the incident, but I kind of made up a story. He told me not to go back to the hotel. I did anyway. Well, I knew it was inevitable. I heard a pounding at the door. I opened it foolishly. I should have called the authorities. He was with his mom and his aunt. Suddenly, he ran up to me, right in front of them both. His aunt jumped on him and started stopping him. But it was that moment that something just clicked. Of all the times he was like that towards me, something about this moment made me realize that I had to get out. If he could become that way in front of his family, then I just don't know. I just finally realized it wasn't me. It wasn't my fault. I didn't leave him that night, but I had a plan in my head. I knew that there was no way I could leave him that night because he could possibly cause me serious harm. I had to be cautious and strategic. We drove back home and I acted as if nothing affected me or mattered. I didn't want him to suspect anything was off, but I did leave him. Alright, well, if any of these stories resonated with you, here's more. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. I'll catch you in that video, and thanks for spending time with me on this one.